It's just nice being up here looking down on all you little people out there. Most of you may know, but this stage is in place. It just was taking too long to disassemble. This was in place for the entertainment last night for the Lylewood dinner. And I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but I understand that dinner netted, after everything, more than $12,000 for Lylewood Camp. So thanks to everyone who helped with that. If you're visiting with us, we are certainly thankful that you're here. We would encourage you to go by our Welcome Center and leave us some information about yourself. You don't have to do that. If nothing else, go by there and get something from us. We'd like to have you something to take home with you. I always encourage everyone to take an order of worship as you come in and look at what's going on. Lots of announcements on the back side. We're doing something a little bit different this morning, and that is we're going to be looking at youth missions, and next week we're going to have a special contribution about that. You'll be hearing more about that as the service goes on. I do want to mention that this week there's a card night coming up. That's on Saturday. Starts at 5:30, goes to about 7:30, and that's on the back of your order of worship. But look at that and be here for that time of fellowship if you can. Next Sunday night, we are hosting the area-wide. They have those every month. They're like in the area. They're all around. What would you call that? So we are hosting the youth area-wide, and we're expecting maybe 250 people or so. We are also providing the refreshments for that. There's a sign-up sheet on the back board if you can help bring food for that event. So let's be gracious hosts and hostesses, and we're going to have a lot of kids in from around the area. There's also still an opening for an aide in the preschool department, and there's information on the back there. You can see Jill Compton. It is great to be here on the first Sunday in March to enjoy the sunshine, a little bit of wind outside. And as we move into our worship service, we want to just lift up God. Our first song is Lord, Reign in Me. And let's say together that theme as stated by the psalmist in Psalm 93. Let's stand, if you would, read together the words that are on the screen. The Lord reigns. He is clothed with majesty. The Lord is clothed. He has girded himself with strength. Surely the world is established so that it cannot be moved. Your throne is established from of old. You are from everlasting. Well, as I mentioned earlier, and if you look at your order of worship, you notice we're having a bit of a different morning this morning. You're going to be hearing from 4 people. But we'll be out here before 2 o'clock, I guarantee. The first one is me. We're going to be having a look at youth missions, and one thing that's happening this morning is just look at the way we were restructuring something about money. And we've had various events and fundraisers, and we're making a shift this year, as in one massive emphasis on one particular day. That's going to be next Sunday. Come prepared to give generously. We're going to be taking up a special contribution to help with youth missions throughout the year. Now, you've heard a lot about youth missions and that phrase, but very specifically today you're going to be hearing about the particulars of some of what our youth are doing. And so I want you, first of all, plan on giving very generously next Sunday morning. And so that's a bit of what this is all about as you hear what's going on. You're going to hear from Jay Tucker, who's going to talk about work that's being done in Honduras, and Chris Menard is going to be talking about the work of our young people at Memphis Work Camp, and then Chad Chapman, our youth minister, is going to wrap things up with his closing remarks. But again, I want to encourage you to be in prayer over what our youth are doing, to open up your pocketbooks to that, and to give generously, and to help you be prompted to do that. Listen carefully to what you're going to be hearing this morning about things that our youth are involved in trying to spread the good news throughout the world. So right now, Jay Tucker will speak to us about work in Honduras.
First of all, this morning I want to give you just a little bit of perspective about the country of Honduras. Honduras is the second poorest country in Central America. Used to be the poorest. Nicaragua has that distinction now. It's the third poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Nicaragua second, and Haiti remains the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. With a population of approximately 8 million people, poverty in Honduras affects roughly 60% of these individuals. Out of 187 countries, Honduras ranked 121st on the United Nations Development Program's 2011 Human Development Index. This index is a comparative measure of life expectancy, literacy, education, and standards of living for countries worldwide. Over 64% of Hondurans live below the poverty level of $2 a day. Let that sink in just a little bit. It's $2 a day. Things cost about the same there in Honduras as they do here. Our poverty level is about $24,000 a year for a family, which is about $65 a day. I want you to just take a look at this stage that I'm standing upon. I think Andy said it was 12 by 12 this morning. The homes we build in Honduras are 16 by 16. I want you to imagine that there's a bunch of young people standing around me, putting up 4 walls of very thin wood, preparing a tin roof, gassing up a chainsaw to cut out a single door and a single window for this new home. And I want you to imagine being thankful for this new 16 by 16 wooden house with a tin roof, a single door, and a single window. You're thankful for it because, number one, it's up off the ground like this stage. It has walls, it has a roof, it has a door that you can lock. You're thankful in the words of a Honduran father in his prayer at the dedication of his new home just last year. My children will be dry when it rains tonight. I want you to hold on to that thought of a better home, a more secure home. From the words of C.S. Lewis, imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps you can understand, or you can't understand, what he's doing. He's getting the drains right, stopping the leaks in the roof, and so on. He knew that these jobs needed doing, and so he's not terribly surprised, but presently he starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abdominally and does not seem to make any sense. What on earth is he up to? The explanation is he's building quite a different house from the one you thought of, throwing out a new wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but he's building a palace. He intends to come and live in it himself. When our team builds our designated Trenton Crossing house in Honduras together each year for a new homeowner, the new homeowner is given a little plaque. I've told you this before, but I'll say it again. That plaque has the verse 2 Corinthians 5:1 on it. For we know that the earthly tent we live in is destroyed. We have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. When we send our young people on mission trips like Torch in Honduras, we're assisting God in the completion of his new dwelling place in the hearts and souls of these young men and women. Janis Korzak was the pen name for Henrik Goldsmith, born in 1878. He would become a physician, a writer, and educator. He was born in Warsaw, Poland, the son of an assimilated Jewish family. He spent many years directing orphanages in Poland, with his final stop being an orphanage in the Jewish ghetto of Warsaw. The Germans occupied Poland in September 1939, and the Warsaw Ghetto was established in November 1940. Korzak's orphanage was moved inside the ghetto. Korzak received many offers to be smuggled out of the ghetto, but he refused because he did not want to abandon the children. On August 5th, 1942, Korzak and nearly 200 children and the orphanage staff members were rounded up and deported to Treblinka, where they were all put to death. Legend is that at the last moment, an SS officer recognized Korzak as the author of one of his favorite children's books and offered to help him avoid the gas chamber. Korzak refused, instead led the children into the chamber, trying to comfort them to the bitter end. I exist not to be loved and admired, but to love and act. It's not the duty of those around me to love me. Rather, it is my duty to be concerned about the world and about man. That was a quote from Mr. Korzak. James 1:22 says, "Do not merely listen to the word and to so deceive yourselves. Do what it says." I share all of this to say that we have some wonderfully talented and gifted Christian young people here at Trenton Crossing. My desire and hope, and I hope it's your desire, is that they will always live to honor their citizenship in heaven. I hope that they will exist to love and to act and not to be loved and admired. I believe mission trips like our Honduran trip and the Memphis work camp inspire both our young people and the adults that attend to do just that. They inspire us to love and to act. I was encouraged when I found out that we had hired a youth minister here who had a heart for mission work. 3 years ago, when Chad had some problems with his first planned mission trip with our young people, I suggested that he contact Torch Missions because my personal experience had been that this is one of the very best such groups in our brotherhood. I want to thank this congregation for the last 3 years of support for this work, and I pray and humbly ask you to continue to support this work. This brings us back to that thought of helping to build a better home, a secure home where God's Spirit lives and thrives. When you give your money to this work, either next week during the special contribution or sometime in the future, you may never know this side of eternity the full extent of the difference that you've made. Building a better home, a more secure home, is always a good investment. And I would like to introduce Brother Chris Menard. He's going to talk with you about the mission work camp.
Thank you, Jake. You ever been asked to do anything that's just incredibly outside your comfort zone? Right here. I'm a truck driver by trade. I'm not a public speaker, so if I look nervous, you know why. 5 years ago, I was asked to go help with Memphis Work Camp. Well, it's more voluntold. The year prior, my wife and kids were part of the group that went down and helped paint houses. The following year, Atlanta come up with something miraculously that she had to do that couldn't go. So the kids voluntold me to go, and they said I would like it, and turns out I did. This coming Memphis Work Camp will be the 30th year that they've been doing it. How many people here, by show of hands, have been to Work Camp before? How many have been more than once? How many have been more than 5? I don't see very many hands. I know there's someone here that's been 18 years, but I purposely excluded him. When we go down, the kids are shy for the most part because they've never been in the element of Memphis. They're outside of their hometown. They're going into a part of town that most people wouldn't go into. And Orange Mound is the area that where this takes place. The houses are set up. They're picked by a local church. The houses are painted for free. The only thing that we need is the workers, and that's where the kids come in. Well, the first year that I went with the intent of slinging a paintbrush. Figure anybody can do that. Well, when I walked in, they handed me a packet, and I said, "What's this?" They said, "This is the members of your group. They're going to be in your crew." And I went, "I'm just here to help. I'm not here to lead." Well, I got pushed into that position, and I've been in that position ever since. A lot of the kids, some of them are not real steady on their feet as far as it comes to getting off the ground, on ladders. There are some, Michael Boyd, who is very tendent to be higher than most others. Keeping him off the house roofs is usually a problem. There are some people that will think that, well, it's mostly guys that go. No, that's not true. The shirt I'm wearing is last year's Work Camp shirt. I had one male on my team. The rest were all females, and they made him pay dearly for any odd remarks that he made. While we're there, the biggest thing that takes place is, we try to make sure we get paint on the houses. The kids sometimes get it in their hair. If you have a lack of hair, sometimes you end up with a handprint on top of your head. We do end up putting the paint on the houses. I don't think there's a house, or there hasn't been many that we haven't finished. To date, if I remember correctly, last year there's been a total of over 850 houses painted during this time. Every year it looks like it's going to be a possible massive failure, but it works out. The end of the week, most of the teams, if not all the teams, make it to a little ice cream shop called Jerry's. It seems to be the goal from day one to make it to Jerry's. We seem to be able to get that ice cream, and that's kind of the goal. But the youth that go on this trip, like I said earlier, the beginning of the trip, they usually will be very shy first day out because you don't know anybody. You may be on a team with 2, maybe 3 people that you do know. By the end of the week, the band is singing together. They are the best of friends. They're laughing, they're joking. It's kind of hard to hear yourself think they're having such a good time. And you'd think that being in Memphis, in the very mild weather that they usually have, that your attitude would change. Turns out it does, and it changes for the better. Like I said earlier, I'm not much of a public speaker. I do appreciate being asked to come up and tell a little bit about Work Camp. The service that the kids put out is it's very incredible. The homeowners are overly appreciative because many of these houses are in dire need of more work than what they're able to do. But a new coat of paint brings a whole new attitude to the homeowners and to the neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
So there's just a couple of things that we do with our youth missions. We also plan on getting with Ken Roberts and a few others to help locally with you. So if you need something, maybe this spring, you could use some yard work, or in the fall when the leaves come down, if you need yard work or need a light bulb screwed in, whatever it is, Youth Missions is there to help locally. We go to Memphis And we usually take about 30 to 35-ish to Memphis, and then this year we have 16 going to Honduras. Our tickets, the plane tickets are about 800-ish, and then it costs about $800 per person to go. That's $1,600 a person times 16. Do the math. We need some money. So if you can help out with that, which you always graciously do, next Sunday is that special giving. But if next Sunday is not the best for you, it's something that we take year round. We also have coin cans and make sure you sign up for the Kroger and all that. There's different ways to get involved. And so you can see me or one of the youth deacons about that, and we'll let you know in ways to help it. Isn't that amazing, the things that we can do and the things that we've already started to do? I understand that we came over here from Madison Street and have some of the same and some different crew, but we've found ourselves, we've found things that work for us and to get involved. And like you said, when I got here, I had gone to Panama for 8 years. It just happened so that wasn't going to work out that year, and Jay was able to mention Honduras, and I've loved it ever since. And we've been able to give thousands of dollars, build hundreds of homes, serve so many ways with food and clothing and meals and medicine, which I'll explain some ways you can help out with that a little bit later as we're getting ready for the video. But we all have our stories to tell. You have a story to tell in ways that you've evangelized, whether it's in your home. Faith starts in the home. Whether it's in your work, whether it's in your schools, whether you've been able to go on one of these mission trips. We all have our stories. We all have successes. We all have failures in our lives that we have to ride that roller coaster and find a way through it. You have a story. I have a story of things that I've gone through, and maybe your story is like similar to this lady. Maybe not to this extreme. But think about emotionally or physically where you've struggled and God has intervened. But maybe you're like this lady emotionally or physically that had lost her husband a year ago. And the husbands are the ones who go fishing and make the money. Well, now she has no husband, so she has no money. Living in a small cement house, block house. She lives with her and her family, and just a dirt floor and no bathroom. God sent us. We were able to be Jesus to these people in that situation. We were able to be Jesus to these people in Memphis. We're able to be Jesus as we serve Trenton Crossing and the local community. God sends us to go and teach. They did a VBS in Honduras last year. We were able to hang out with the kids in the neighborhood and be a good example to them, because we know some of those kids don't have that example in these situations. We have this lady who, just something as simple as using the bathroom in your own home. I don't think any of us have that problem. But just as simple as using the bathroom in her own home, God trusted us, and we trusted God to go into these situations and serve and bring Him glory and honor. And what a difference it makes to these people to serve them in the name of Jesus. So I just want to quickly look at a couple things as we wrap up and offer an invitation. The first thing is, if there is someone in need, are we allowing God to send us? And the second thing is, when we are in need, God will send help. Just one of the simplest prayers that we can pray when we wake up in the morning, and it can be a very powerful prayer, and is a very powerful prayer too, is to say, Lord, send someone across my path. Send someone my way today that I can help. It's an exciting prayer. It opens up a lot of opportunities if you dare to pray that prayer each day. Lord, send someone my way that needs my help. Send something my way that you need me to do. And I think if we'll pray that if we'll watch for an answer, if we'll discern, and then make sure and thank God for the answer, then those will be the steps that we need to have to be successful missionaries. We are all missionaries in whatever field you may be in. And sometimes that answer is not clear. It's not always clear to me what God wants me to do and the steps that I need to take. But I find out when I pray about it and when I go through the day watchful of what God may present to me and to give me an answer. And then I allow the Holy Spirit to guide me in that discernment. Then I see that God will and does work. And then I need to make sure, and I go, hey, good job, Honduras mission trip. Good job, Memphis work camp. We did such a good job. But we go, thank you, God, for allowing us to serve you and bring you glory and honor in these situations. Do you believe that's even possible? Do you think that that's possible for God to step in and answer that prayer? And when we do, what do you think is going to happen when we say, God, send me? There's a story in the Bible that demonstrates this well. It's in Genesis chapter 24. We have a guy named Abraham. Some of you may know about this guy. He's very old, and he's asked his chief servant to get a wife for his son Isaac. And he says, not from the Canaanites, among whom I live, but go into my country and into my relatives. So the servant travels. He goes to a town, and he just happens to stop to water his camels, and he stops and he prays. He says in verse 12, O Lord, God of my master Abraham, give me success today and show kindness to my master Abraham. And before he had finished praying, who walks up with a jar over her shoulder? Rebekah. And the servant says this in verse 21, or the servant did this in verse 21. He watched her closely, and he learned whether or not the Lord had made his journey successful. Then he has a conversation with her and discovers that indeed she is a relative of Abraham's through his brother Nahor. So then the servant bows down after God has answered this prayer for him. And he bows down, and it says in verse 27 that he praises the Lord, the God of his master Abraham. The Lord has led me on my journey to this house of my father's relatives. See the pattern here? Pray, watch, discern, then thank God. And it all starts with a simple prayer. It all starts with a simple thought. It all starts with a spark of, Lord, send someone across my path today that I can help. It may be someone that you're sitting next to in the doctor's office that needs encouragement. It may be someone that is standing in front of you in the grocery store. The possibilities are endless. And they are exciting if we'll just allow God and be willing for God to use us. And maybe, just maybe, our prayer is this. Lord, send one across my path today to encourage me. Maybe you're the one who needs help. You're the one who needs encouragement. God's not opposed for us praying for ourselves and asking Him for our wants and our needs. He knows our wants and our needs, and He encourages us to talk with Him. Maybe someone near you, or you need a phone call. Maybe it's an unexpected knock at the door. Maybe it's a kind word from a stranger. We all need to be encouraged. We all need to give encouragement. And it all starts with the steps of praying about it, watching, discerning, and then making sure to thank God in that opportunity. We were able to build a bathroom for that lady that didn't have a bathroom in her own home, so she could have the decency of just using the restroom in her own house. We were able to do that. So physically and spiritually, we were able to do those type of things and so much more with our youth missions. That is our goal. That is our mission, to serve others both physical, spiritual, emotional needs, so that we can bring glory and honor to God and make this life a little more bearable as Satan tries to make us crash and burn. And so this morning we have an opportunity, from the elders or others you may know, friends or family that you have in this congregation, to give a prayer of encouragement. Our youth missions is a huge success. They remind us that God is active in our lives and call us to be active. And if we have a need, God will send someone our way. So it works both ways. God will send help, and we are called to be the help He needs. And so whether you're the person being sent or you're the person in need, God will be there for you. And we're called as a church to be there for one another. And we need you as the church to help us a little bit, both financially, spiritually, physically, and emotionally, as we prepare and do these activities throughout each year. Maybe this morning you would like to make that step to become a Christian, so that you can spiritually be in a place of being washed in the blood of the Lamb and have your slate washed clean, so that you can be white as snow in the image of Christ. We can do that for you this morning. Maybe you just need a prayer of encouragement. Maybe you know someone who needs a prayer of encouragement. I want you to pray that, to come down or to do that as we stand and sing together.